Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Professor Calderon. All right, so I wanted to talk about lighting and tone control, controlling the grayscale, the tone scale. We have three different ways of doing this. The first one is I'm going to call reflective, and reflective control has to do with the colors. Right? Got my candy going, sugar rush. Reflective control has to do the colors of objects, right? So this appears gray to us because the light, when a light actually contains all the colors in the spectrum, right? So all the colors in the rainbow are in light, and you get a prism that will separate it. So when light hits an object, depending on the frequency of depending on the material that the object is made of or coated with, is going to affect how we see it. So what's happening here is we have the natural light of the sun, and that light is hitting this metal beam, and the pigments in the paint absorbs certain frequencies of light, but it's reflecting back a specific frequency that allows me to perceive that as gray. Okay, that's called reflective control. So we're actually controlling the grayscale, the tonal value of the image and the composition by using the pigment and the paints and the colors of items on the set. Okay, does that make sense? So we're controlling the tonal value of it, the grayscale. Okay, so you can look behind, like, for example, all these poles are painted gray. You can see those yellow lines right there, right? Those are reflecting a different light frequency. So that that reflective value of the pigments, the fabrics, the paint on the wall, right? You see how the walls are gray, right? It's a specific tonal scale here, and it's being created by the natural light reflecting off the wall. Okay, so it's absorbing a spectrum and it's reflecting the light that allows us to perceive a different color. That's one way of controlling the grayscale, right? Another way is called incidental control. Okay, now here's incidental. You see these shadows right here. I'm sorry, these shadows right here, how bright they are. Let me spin this up. Even like right here, you can see these shadows here on the wall cast over here, right? That's incident control. The light itself is hitting it and controlling with the grayscale with those shadows and creating either contrast or affinity, right? It's either contrast or affinity. Remember, that's the key key idea that we use to frame everything in this. Contrast and affinity. Either it's an affinity or it's in a contrast. If there's an affinity, there's less intensity. If there's a contrast, there's a higher intensity. So if you look at this color, this gray, it's brighter than this gray, right? That's incident control because the light is hitting this. It's natural light coming through and it's creating these shadows, okay? That's incident control. When light is being absorbed like this and reflected back, we don't get those hard shadows, right? That's reflective control. They use reflective control mostly on TV shows so that they can evenly light the set and leave it, because they don't want to spend a lot of time relighting on television because time is money. So they light it up using reflective control, right? And you can see, like right here, here it is again, incidental control. That's incidental, right? It has to do with that natural light coming through right? But something like this, we don't get those hard shadows. This is reflective control. The tone, wow, excuse me, 48 and I'm going to puberty, sorry. The tone, the grayscale is created by the light being reflected off, and then our eyes or the camera sees a certain color spectrum, right? There's a third way, and it's called through exposure. And you can take, I'm just going to do it right now. I can take the exposure value within the camera and change it to make it darker, right? See how it's darker now? And I can make it lighter. So I'm changing the grayscale just using the exposure within the camera, right? So you got those three things. You have reflective control. How you doing? You have reflective control, and then you have incidental control, right? And then the third one is controlling the gray tone with exposure in the camera, okay? That's it. That's how we control the tone for grayscale. No, this one's going to be on the final, hands down. So make sure you know the difference between the two, incidental and reflective. Exposure I'm not going to put on there, it's so simple, but incidental and reflective you're going to need to know. And just remember, reflective has to do with the paints, the pigments, the dyes, and the fabric, the type of fabric, because everything reflects, everything has its own reflective value. So like even like you see the concrete right here, it's very dark in contrast to this concrete right here, it's very bright. Well, that has to do with the pigments and the dyes, or not dyes, but the natural color of the chemicals in the asphalt and the chemicals in the concrete, right? It's absorbing light and reflecting back a different frequency. Whereas with this, it's using that hard lighting, the shadows, the lights coming in to create that to create that contrast and brightness. Incidental control, reflective control. I'm gonna go in this building here and I'm gonna show you some more reflective control, right? So I'm in the hospital and I gotta keep my voice down, right? Okay, security's not here, so I can do this. Here we go. Reflective control, right? The pigments and the paints and the dyes in the seats are causing it blue. And this is brighter, right? And it's absorbing a certain frequency of light and reflecting it back, right? Incidental control is the natural light. Reflective control has to do with the pigments, the dyes, and paints and of objects on set and in the shot. All right, know those two and you got it, and everything else for the test. Hey, you guys, this was a great class. I didn't get to meet anyone, but I read all your comments and your feedback, and I loved it. I'm glad that you guys connected with it. I'm glad that some of you guys have been impacted by this stuff. That makes me happy. Usually I get to meet students and it's a whole exciting exchange. I don't know if you can tell, I'm like a very animated kind of guy. I'm not the kind of your average instructor who kind of just sits up behind a podium and lectures. So I hope everybody walks away with a little something, something. And I'm also teaching this quarter in the fall. I'm also teaching this class again. And fortunately in this class in the fall, we get to watch more movies and we go a little deeper because we have more time, or a different pace. And then in the spring, I teach screenwriting. So I invite you to come to one of those classes and, hey man, have some fun making movies. All right, good luck on the final, you guys. And thanks for taking the class. Peace.